You know that feeling when you're near a deep, still body of water, especially at dusk, when the light gets strange and the shadows stretch out like grasping fingers. There's a quietness that isn't peaceful. It's watchful. And sometimes, if you're really unlucky, or maybe just if the world tilts a certain way for a moment, that watchfulness turns into something else. Something hungry. Down in the cold, wind-scoured lakes and rivers of Patagonia, a land of breathtaking, desolate beauty, they have a name for that hunger. They've had it for generations. It starts, they say, with something that shouldn't be there, a patch on the water, just a skin. They call it el cuero, the hide. In the old Mapuche tongue, Trülke Wekufü, the skin demon. And it's a name whispered with a particular kind of fear, the kind that settles deep in your bones and stays there. Imagine a discarded animal hide, maybe a cow's or a sheep's, just floating idly near the shore. Lifeless, mundane, nothing to catch your eye, nothing to raise alarm. That's its genius. That's its terrible, patient cunning. Because El Cuero is a lie, wrapped in a deceptively simple skin. It waits, blending with the detritus of the lakeside, until curiosity, or thirst, or just bad luck, brings you too close. And then the lie unravels. The story I want to tell you, it's an old one, passed down. It concerns a young man, Nahuel. Not a hero in the grand sense, just a lad from a small village nestled near one of those Patagonian lakes, one whose waters were always a little too dark, a little too quiet for comfort. The kind of place where mothers warned their children not to play too close to the edge. It was late afternoon, the sun already starting to dip behind the jagged peaks, painting the sky in bruised purples and reds. Nahuel had been tasked with checking a line of traps he'd set for small game, a little way along the lakeshore. A routine chore. The air was cold, carrying the scent of damp earth, and something else. A faint, almost coppery tang that he couldn't quite place. He told himself it was just the lake, the mud. He'd walked this path 100 times, knew every rock, every stubborn bush. But today, the silence felt heavier. The water, usually just a dark mirror of the sky, seemed thicker, more opaque. He remembered his grandmother's tales, of course. Stories of the Trülke Wekufü. He'd always dismissed them as old wives' tales, things to scare children. Then he saw it. Further down the shoreline, near a cluster of reeds, something lay half in, half out of the water. It looked like a large sheepskin, matted and dark, glistening wetly. Probably, he thought, something a fox had dragged down and lost. Annoying. It might scare off any game. He moved closer, a slight frown creasing his brow. The coppery smell was stronger here, and something else. A faint, cloying sweetness, like overripe fruit mixed with something dank. The thing was bigger than he first thought, and the color, not just dark, but a patchwork of dull, mottled browns and sickly yellows. No head, no limbs, just skin. He prodded it with the toe of his boot. It felt wrong, too yielding, yet with a strange firmness beneath, like thick, cold muscle. He bent down, peering. That's when he saw them. Not all over, but along the edge nearest the water, almost hidden in the folds. Small, glinting points, like thorns or tiny hooked claws, black and sharp. An icy prickle ran down Nahuel's spine, a cold fist clenching in his gut. This wasn't any sheepskin he'd ever seen. And then The edge of the hide twitched. Just a fraction. Nahuel froze. His breath caught in his throat. His heart began a frantic, hammering beat against his ribs. He told himself it was the water, a current. But the lake was still. Dead still. The hide rippled. Slowly, deliberately, a section of it nearest the water seemed to inflate slightly. And from that inflation, two things extended, pale and obscene on short, fleshy stalks. Eyes. Dull, black, lidless eyes that fixed on him with a cold, ancient malice. Nahuel didn't scream. He couldn't. Terror had stolen his breath, his voice, turned his legs to stone. He could only stare as the thing, the Cuero, began to move. It didn't crawl. It flowed. Like thick, living leather, it slid further out of the water, its edges uncurling, revealing more of those needle-sharp claws. It was impossibly flat, yet it moved with a horrifying, silent purpose. He finally found his legs. He stumbled back, a choked gasp tearing from his throat. But it was too late. The Cuero moved with a speed that defied its bulk. It launched itself from the water's edge, not a leap, but a hideous, unfurling surge. Like a monstrous, living blanket, it wrapped around his legs. The cold was instantaneous, seeping through his trousers, biting into his skin. But worse was the pressure. Crushing. Suffocating. Those hooked claws, dozens of them, dug into his flesh, not deeply, but with 1,000 tiny, burning points of agony. He could feel the rough, hide-like texture of its upper surface, and beneath, something impossibly smooth and slick against his skin. The smell was overwhelming now. Stagnant water, rotting vegetation, and that awful, sweet, sour stench of it. He was being dragged, pulled inexorably towards the dark, waiting water. He scrabbled at the stony bank, his fingers raw and bleeding, but there was no purchase. The Cuero was immensely strong, its grip relentless. He could feel its body tightening, squeezing the air from his lungs. Panic, raw and primal, clawed at his mind. He was going to die. He was going to be pulled under, into that black, silent cold, and become... what? Then, through the red haze of terror, a memory surfaced. His grandmother's voice, urgent, insistent. "The thorns, Nahuel! The sharp thorns! It fears the spines!" The Quisco. The thorny cactus that grew in patches further up the slope. It was a desperate, insane thought. He was already half in the water, the icy chill reaching his waist. With a last convulsive surge of adrenaline, he twisted, flailing. One hand, slick with mud and his own blood, found a loose rock. He smashed it down, blindly, onto the leathery expanse that bound his legs. There was no discernible cry from the Cuero, but he felt a momentary slackening of its grip. Just enough. He thrashed, kicking, trying to tear himself free. His eyes, wild with fear, scanned the bank. There. A small, stunted Quisco bush, just a few feet away. Its branches were covered in long, wicked spines. He didn't think. He lunged. The Cuero, recovering, tightened its grip again, those claws digging deeper. Pain seared through his legs. But his outstretched hand closed around a Quisco branch. He ripped it free, the thorns tearing at his palm, but he barely felt it. He twisted his body, contorting himself, and jammed the thorny branch down, hard, between his trapped legs, into the fleshy, clinging mass of the Cuero. The reaction was instantaneous. The Cuero convulsed. A violent, shuddering spasm ran through its entire body. The pressure on his legs released with a suddenness that almost sent him sprawling into the water. He felt something wet and warm, not just water, gush over his skin. The thing thrashed wildly, the hooked claws now tearing at itself as it tried to dislodge the impaling thorns. Nahuel scrambled backwards, crab-like, away from the water's edge, his legs screaming in agony, his lungs burning. He didn't look back until he was several yards up the bank, his body trembling uncontrollably. The Cuero was retreating, a dark, writhing shape trailing something darker in the water. It slipped back into the depths, disappearing with a final, oily ripple, leaving behind only the churned mud, the scent of blood and stagnant water, and a silence that was now truly, deeply terrifying. Nahuel lay there for a long time, gasping, shaking, the Quisco branch still clutched in his bleeding hand, alive, but marked. Marked by the cold, by the claws, and by the absolute certain knowledge that the old tales were true. Nahuel survived. Many others, they say, were not so fortunate. The old Mapuche people understood this creature, or perhaps the force it represented. They called it a Wekufü, a malevolent spirit born of the dark places, the underworld that lies just beneath our own. For them, lakes and rivers weren't just water. They were sacred, pathways for ancestral spirits, but also openings. Openings for things like El Cuero. The sheer desolation of Patagonia, those vast, wind-swept plains and icy, silent lakes. It's the perfect cradle for such a legend. Imagine being out there, alone. The wind, your only companion. The water a black, depthless eye staring back at you. It's not hard to believe that something ancient and predatory could be watching from just beneath the surface. The story of Nahuel, the Quisco defense. It's a sliver of hope, a testament to ancestral knowledge, but it also underscores the terror, that such a defense is even needed. And what of those who don't have a Quisco branch at hand? The stories are less about survival then. Some speak of the aftermath of an attack, if anything is left at all. There's one account, whispered with particular dread, of a victim found not just dead, but hollowed. An empty human skin, they said, split open at the spine. No blood, no organs, even the bones, gone. As if something had meticulously, horrifyingly, drunk them dry from the inside out, leaving only a grotesque parody of a human form to be found basking on some lonely shore. Is El Cuero an undiscovered animal, a monstrous freshwater ray, or something far stranger, adapted to the cold? Or is it truly what the Mapuche named it, a skin demon, a Wekufü, a physical manifestation of the dread that water itself can inspire? The truth, well, the truth probably still lurks, silent and patient, in the cold, dark waters of those Patagonian lakes, waiting. There's a unique chill to the fear El Cuero inspires. It's not just the monster, but its disguise. The ordinary, made lethal. The calm surface hiding an unspeakable hunger. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Next time you're by a still, dark lake, and you see something floating near the edge, just a piece of debris, an old bit of leather perhaps, you might find yourself taking a very wide berth. Thanks for listening. If this story sent a shiver down your spine, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more tales from the shadows, and share your own thoughts or local legends in the comments below. What waits in your local waters? Sleep tight, if you can.